So in this book, instead of the author telling you her opinion and what worked for her family, she gives you the data on both. Like, these are the facts about breastfeeding. These are the facts about formula feeding. Now you put in your preferences to make the best choice for you and your family.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, okay, I want to read this book.
So it's not, this is the way, these are your options.
These are
and
your
you
options.
decide.
And the options, not just these are your options, but these are your options and the data that's around it to support it. Facts, research, actual data, like statistics. And then what I know she does also is like, just because there's data doesn't mean it's good data.
Mm.
So she'll analyze the data like, well, this sample size was kind of funny or it was biased.
It's kind of like something you pointed out a while back, but it's like knowing where the data is coming from.
Data's coming from, because it could be biased if they're trying to support an agenda, right? Like the dairy companies were pumping out all this, got milk because they wanted to sell milk, right?
Yeah.
So just like now, the vaccines is like, oh, everybody's like, it's the pharmaceutical companies are trying to convince us of X, Y, and Z, So, and then there's people who are looking at the data and figuring that out. So that's what I liked about this book. It's not judgy. It's like, these are your options. Now take this information what you will and make the best choice for you without feeling guilty about it.
Did you say the name already?
It's called Cribsheet.
Cribsheet.
Yes. So it's like spreadsheet. Cribsheet.
That's cute.
And there's something in here that I was like, oh, I have to talk about this on the podcast. So I haven't finished the book. When I finish it, I'm going to reward myself with something because, So I get to the part in the book that is talking about recovery after labor, right? And there's a section about exercise and sex. And of course, those are important to me. So I'm going to read these 2 chapters. But before I read them, not 2 chapters, 2 paragraphs. Sorry, these 2 paragraphs. But before I read them, I want to ask you a question. What do you think, when are women able to have sex again after they have a vaginal delivery?
As far as I know, it's 6 weeks.
Okay. And what led you to that?
It's just what I've always heard.
You've always heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if it's Dominican culture, Latin culture, we have this thing called la cuarentena, meaning 40 days. Like, it's just known in our culture that women have to wait 40 days.
Okay.
Right? Which is approximately close to the 6 weeks, right? Like 6 weeks is how many days? 7 times 6.
42.
Okay, quicker. See, you're supposed to be doing multiplication with Eli. So that's around the same time, right?
Okay.
So let me read this. So this book is all about the data and the facts, right? When it comes to sex after baby, there's a commonly accepted rule: no sex until 6 weeks postpartum, after you have had a checkup with your doctor. This is so often cited that I had assumed it was evidence-based, that there was some biological reason why you need to wait this long, no more, no less. In fact, this is completely fabricated. There is no set waiting period for resuming sex after giving birth. The 6-week rule appears to have been invented by doctors so husbands wouldn't ask for sex. This somewhat odd tradition persists. When I had my first postpartum checkup around 6 weeks after having Finn, the doctor, not my midwife, but the doctor who happened to be available that day, told me I was fine, and then asked if I wanted him to write me a note to tell my husband I was not. I found this very uncomfortable.
What the fuck?
So you have a completely shocked...
I have a lot of thoughts going on right now.
Okay.
First thing that comes to mind is like, so we can have sex tonight?
And this is why this tradition persists, because look at Travis right away. So that means we can have sex?
So it was solely put into place to basically stop thirsty men from wanting to have sex. not because of any health reasons.
So she goes on later to say, like, obviously you need to heal, right? So if you have a vaginal delivery, or even if you have a cesarean, if you have a cesarean section, that's major abdominal surgery, right? So of course you need to heal. You can't just jump into sex. If you have vaginal delivery, of course you need to heal. A lot of women also, majority of women tear. So you need that to heal before you can have sex. However, the 6 weeks number is completely like made up. Like there's no data or biological reason when that is. The only true marker is that the woman is ready. Like she feels ready. She feels comfortable. She's
mentally,
healed.
physically.
I'm glad you said mentally, because even if we have this 6 weeks as Bible, like that's what it is, right? What if I come home after my 6 weeks appointment? I'm like, I'm not ready. Well, tell me, what would you say?
I mean, it's your body, your choice. So.
You're about to sweat.
No, I'm not. And I hope I never make you feel like you have to have sex with me. And, sex is so much better when you want it more than when I want it.
And I agree. And I believe we have a very healthy sexual relationship in that sense. But I do feel like having that 6 week rule has made it easier for both of us to kind of like refrain from attempting to have sex.
Has it?
Don't you think? Don't you feel like it's been more like of a... First of all, we're tired as shit.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Like we're just exhausted. But I feel like having that 6 weeks in our head has made it a little easier to be like, well, we can't do it right now anyway.
That's true. But I mean, there's been moments where it's just like,
fuck, this
we
sucks.
really want each other.
Yeah. But had we read this, would we have just went and did it?
Probably. Not shit. Like, how much time for this podcast to be over?
So I read this like 2 nights ago, and I was holding it, like waiting for this episode to talk about it.
Our situation aside, because I do, like you said, I do think we have a pretty healthy relationship with sex. It is very telling the state of, relationships, marital relationships when it comes to sex, how unhealthy that shit is.
And how it's always the responsibility of the woman to like, what's the word? But why is it so we're putting this rule on women so their men could not be so thirsty? It kind of reminds me of like telling girls like, don't wear that dress just in case so a guy won't do something. Like putting the responsibility on the woman not to be like sexually harassed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You get what I'm saying?
That's insane.
And
I hope I am able to come up with you when you have your checkup, your is it postpartum checkup? I'm gonna ask the doctor like where'd that 6 weeks come from? See what she says.
Yeah, I should ask her.
See what she pulls out her ass. Well, start throwing out big words. The vaginal area needs to blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking is that a lot of the stuff in here, this book will be ideal for a woman who's about to give birth. I started once I already did. So a lot of the beginning of it, I already went through it, but it was still interesting to read the data and the facts and seeing where I fell and how my decisions might have been different had I read this book sooner. But a lot of the things that I learned here, I learned in those like 48 hours of the delivery. I feel like they should be spreading out some of this information and some of these expectations during the prenatal visits, especially the last 4 weeks. Like after 32 weeks, when I visit the doctor, some of the like what's going to happen to your body, what you're going to feel, what things you need to bring to the doctor. Like I was asking Instagram, like, what should I bring with me to the hospital? Prenatal care should be a little bit more informative. Maybe some places are. I don't know. But anyway, So you ready?
Yeah, what a mind fuck. I feel like I just woke up from the Matrix.
Even I'm like, what? But if you think about it, when you think of Irish twins and how close they are in
But
age,
also think about as a society how much we judge people who, when you hear like, damn, she's pregnant already, like they couldn't keep it in their pants. We judge them, like straight up judge them. And, you know.
Well, I honestly, the reason I have judged people for that is not because they wanted to have sex, but like y'all couldn't have protected sex or contraception.
But let's say it's a couple who plans on having more kids and they don't want to have protected sex.
Yeah.
And she's listening to herself mentally and to her body, and she feels ready. As a society, we would talk shit about her.
Again, another pushback on that is I might think, was she okay? Did she really want to have sex with that man, or did he pressure her to do it?
There's a lot to unpack.
Right? Like you might worry like, and when we think about postpartum recovery and needing these 6 weeks, right? What about adoptive parents? You're still going to be exhausted as hell. You don't have the physical, like literally your vagina or your abdomen isn't recovering. But the lack of sleep we've had these past 6 weeks, like even if I didn't need to heal, I don't think our sex life will be like, woohoo, booming. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have to focus on that and like being mentally ready for sex more so than physically.
True.
Yeah. Because, you know, men could have postpartum depression.
That's in the book?
Yeah.
What's the signs?
Your lack of sleep, you know, a lot of changes going on. You can have anxiety about making sure the baby's safe and okay and breathing and, you know, the same stresses that a birth mother might have.
I might have a little of that.
Adoptive parents have, men have, dads. And it's typical to have a little and to have worry. But when it becomes a mental health issue, that's different.
I'm laughing because I'm like, I might have a little of that, but I could fuck through it.
God, you're disgusting. You are truly.
I'll be sad, but
disgusting.